I swear, the second I opened my mouth, I knew I messed up. Let me back up a little, though, because you need the full picture for this one. So, there I was, finally living the good life for a day. I had managed to score a first-class ticket on a flight from New York to Los Angeles. Pure luck, a mix-up at the counter, and a free upgrade. I'm usually crammed into economy with my knees pressed against the seat in front of me. But this time, I was reclining in a chair that felt like a damn cloud. I'm sitting there sipping a glass of champagne like I belong there, and in walks this guy. He's wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his face, sunglasses indoors, and honestly, the whole try not to be noticed look just made him stick out more. He walks past me to his seat, one row up, directly across the aisle. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't immediately recognize him. I just remember thinking, one of those people. You know, the kind who think they're important because they can throw on some designer sneakers and aviators. To me, he just looked like another wannabe influencer trying too hard to stay relevant. Anyway, about halfway through boarding, the guy accidentally bumps into a flight attendant as he's stowing his carry-on. She smiles at him, says, "No problem at all," like it's no big deal. But in my mind, I'm already annoyed. Like, of course this guy isn't paying attention. Typical rich dud. As the flight gets ready to take off, people around him start sneaking glances. I don't think much of it. Maybe he's a minor celebrity, someone you'd see on a reality TV show, but not big enough to make me CA. But then, as the flight levels out and they start bringing around dinner menus, I catch a conversation between him and the flight attendant. She's being super friendly, talking about his recent projects. He's polite, but low-key, like he doesn't want anyone to hear. At one point, she laughs and says, "You must hear this all the time, but I loved you." That's when it clicks. Oh, my God, it's Tom Cruise. Now, I don't know. Yeah, okay, buddy. We get it. You're so famous. Maybe tone. So, there I am, sinking into my seat like a guilty kid who just got caught stealing cookies. But it's not like anyone else knows what I said to him. At least not yet. For a split second, I think I might actually get away with it. Then the flight attendant, bless her overly helpful soul, walks over to me. She leans in and says, "Sir, can I bring you anything? Maybe a refill." Her voice is polite, but her eyes are screaming. What is wrong with you? That's Tom Cruise. Now, I don't know why my brain is wired this way, but instead of apologizing or just saying, "No, thanks," like a normal human being, I decide to double down. "Oh, I'm fine," I say, waving her off with what I'm sure was the most smug, dismissive gesture ever. "But maybe you should focus on the celebrities up here. Wouldn't want them to feel neglected." She stares at me for a second, then just nods and walks off. And the worst part, Tom Cruise, the Tom Cruise, definitely heard me. He's smirking now, just barely, like he's trying not to laugh. At this point, I'm sweating bullets. The cabin lights dim as we settle into the flight, but I'm wide awake, replaying every bad decision I've made since birth. I can't stop glancing over at him. He's sitting there, calm as can be, flipping through a magazine like he's not the single most famous person in the room. But then something weird happens. The guy in the row behind me, who, by the way, is wearing a Hawaiian shirt and has drunk uncle at a barbecue energy, leans forward and whispers, "Hey man, is that really Tom Cruise?" I don't know why, but I see this as an opportunity to salvage the situation. "Nah," I whisper back, trying to sound confident. "Just some lookalike. Guy probably hires himself out for parties or whatever." The Hawaiian shirt guy nods like this makes perfect sense, and I think, great, I've planted the seed of doubt. But as soon as I turn back around, I hear a quiet voice from across the aisle. "Actually, it is me." "Yup, Tom Cruise said that." Out loud. I whip my head around, and he's just sitting there grinning now. He's not angry, not annoyed. He actually seems like he's enjoying this. The guy behind me bursts out laughing, which only makes it worse. "Oh man, you're busted," he says, loud enough for half the cabin to hear. And just like that, the entire vibe of first class changes. People start whispering, pointing, craning their necks to get a better look at him. One woman even tries to take a selfie with him from 2 rows away, which is just sad. Tom handles it like a pro, though. He gives a little wave, says something like, "I appreciate the enthusiasm, but let's just enjoy the flight, okay?" And everyone kind of settles down after that. Everyone except me. because now Hawaiian shirt guy is leaning forward again. Man, you really thought he wasn't Tom Cruise, huh? He says, laughing like this is the funniest thing he's ever heard. I try to laugh it off. Yeah, well, he just looks so normal, you know? And that's when Tom chimes in again. Thanks, I think, he says, raising an eyebrow. Cue more laughter from Hawaiian shirt guy and anyone else within earshot. I'm dying inside. But then, as if the universe hadn't punished me enough, it gets worse. The flight attendant comes back, this time with a fresh drink for him. She hands it to him with a smile and says, "On the house, Mr. Cruise." Without missing a beat, Tom Cruise turns to me, holds up the drink, and says, "Cheers." I have never felt smaller in my entire life. But here's the thing, he wasn't mean about it. He could have torn me apart right there, could have made some comment about people being quick to judge or whatever, but he didn't. Instead, he took a sip of his drink and went back to his magazine, like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting there, cheeks burning, trying to disappear into my seat. At that point, I figure, okay, the worst is over. I'll just keep my head down for the rest of the flight. But oh, I was so wrong. So, after the cheers incident, I decide to shut up for the rest of the flight. I mean, what else can I do? I've already embarrassed myself in front of Tom freaking Cruise, and the last thing I want is to dig the hole any deeper. But the universe? Oh no, it wasn't done with me yet. About an hour into the flight, the seatbelt sign comes on, and the captain announces some turbulence. Nothing major, just the usual keep your seatbelts fastened warning. Everyone settles in, and I think finally some peace. Then I notice Tom getting up. He's heading toward the restroom at the front of the cabin. No big deal, right? Wrong. As he's walking back to his seat, the plane hits a pretty rough patch of turbulence. Like drinks sliding off tray tables rough. And wouldn't you know it, Tom stumbles. Not a dramatic fall or anything. He catches himself on the armrest of my seat, but it's enough to make the guy in the Hawaiian shirt behind me blurt out, "Careful, Maverick." The whole cabin cracks up. Tom, to his credit, just laughs and gives the guy a thumbs up. But me? I'm sitting there frozen because, of course, he caught himself on MY's seat. Nice reflexes, I mutter, trying to sound casual. He looks at me, and for a second, I think he's going to ignore me. But then he grins. "Occupational hazard," he says, and keeps walking. Okay, cool. A little interaction. Nothing humiliating this time. I'm starting to think maybe I can redeem myself. But then the turbulence gets worse. Like way worse. The plane starts shaking, people are gripping their armrests, and a kid somewhere in coach starts crying. The flight attendants are rushing to their jump seats, and I'm pretty sure I hear someone whispering a prayer. And that's when Tom Cruise stands up. No joke, the guy unbuckles his seatbelt, stands up in the middle of the chaos, and starts helping the flight attendants secure overhead bins that are popping open. One of the flight attendants tries to get him to sit down, but he just waves her off like, "I've got this." At this point, everyone in first class is watching him. It's like a scene out of one of his movies. The turbulence is throwing the plane around like a roller coaster, but there's Tom Cruise, steady as a rock, making sure everyone's stuff is secure. Finally, the turbulence eases up, and the captain comes on the intercom to apologize. Tom sits back down, totally unfazed, while the rest of us are still trying to catch our breath. And then Hawaiian shirt guy, because of course it's him, says what we're all thinking. "Man, I feel safer with you on board than the air marshal." The cabin erupts in laughter. Even I can't help but chuckle. Tom just shakes his head, smiling, and says, "Let's hope I don't have to prove that." Now, you'd think that would be the end of the excitement, right? Oh no. This flight had one more curveball in store. About 30 minutes later, the captain announces that we're starting our descent into LA. The flight attendants are going around collecting trash, and I'm thinking, okay, I survived this. No more drama. But then, as we're coming in for the landing, there's this loud thunk from underneath the plane. Like loud. People start looking around nervously, and the captain gets on the intercom again, saying something about a minor landing gear issue. Cue more prayers. As the plane touches down, it's clear something's off. The landing is rough, like teeth rattling rough, and we come to a stop way earlier than usual. The cabin is dead silent, except for the sound of my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. Then the captain says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a slight mechanical issue. Emergency vehicles will be inspecting the aircraft. Please remain seated." People are whispering, trying to figure out what's going on. That's when Tom Cruise stands up again. "Everything's fine," he says, loud enough for everyone to hear. "It's just protocol. We're all safe." And you know what? People actually calm down. Like the guy says a few words, and suddenly everyone's breathing easier. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking, is this guy even real? As we finally start taxiing to the gate, I catch Tom glancing in my direction. He doesn't say anything, just gives me this little smirk, like he knows exactly how much he's messing with my head. But the real kicker? That was still not the end of my day with Tom Cruise. So, we finally make it to the gate, and everyone's itching to get off the plane. You know how it is? People standing up way too early, jockeying for position to grab their bags, like the terminal's going to evaporate if they don't get there first. I stay put, though, mostly because I don't want to accidentally bump into Tom Cruise again and embarrass myself for the third time. Tom, of course, stays seated too, cool as ever. He's scrolling on his phone, completely unbothered. Meanwhile, the Hawaiian shirt guy behind me keeps saying things like, "Man, I can't believe we were on a flight with Tom Cruise. Wait till my buddies hear this." Eventually, the doors open, and we start shuffling out. I'm one of the last to leave first class because, let's be real, I'm stalling. I figure if I can let enough people get ahead of me, I won't have to deal with any more awkward run-ins. But life, as you've probably figured out by now, has other plans. As I step off the plane and into the terminal, I notice a small crowd gathering near the gate. It takes me a second to realize what's happening. People are waiting for Tom Cruise. Like word must have spread. And now there's this gaggle of fans holding out phones, snapping pictures, and shouting his name. I try to slip past unnoticed, but no. The Hawaiian shirt guy, my personal nemesis at this point, grabs my shoulder and says, "Hey man, let's wait and see if he says anything." Before I can protest, Tom walks out of the jet bridge. The crowd erupts, cameras flashing, people calling out, "We love you, Tom." He waves, gives that classic movie star smile, and starts shaking a few hands. And then, because the universe apparently has a sick sense of humor, he spots me. "Hey," he says, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Did you enjoy the flight?" The crowd parts like the Red Sea, all eyes now on me. I can feel my face turning redder than a fire truck. What am I supposed to say? Yeah, it was great," I stammer. He nods, clearly amused. "Good to hear. Glad you made it safely." And then he winks. The crowd eats it up, laughing and cheering like we're in some kind of buddy comedy. I just stand there, frozen, wondering if I'll ever recover from this day. But it gets better. As he starts walking away, someone in the crowd yells, "Tom, can we get a group photo?" He stops, considers it for a second, and then says, "Sure, why not?" Now I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'll just step aside and let them do their thing. But before I can move, Tom points at me and says, "Come on, you two." What? The next thing I know, I'm being ushered into this impromptu photo op with Tom Cruise and a bunch of random fans. Hawaiian shirt guy is right next to me, grinning like he just won the lottery. Tom puts an arm around my shoulder, and says, "All right, everyone smile." The flashes go off, and I'm standing there like a deer in headlights, trying to process the fact that I'm in a group photo with one of the most famous people on the planet. After the photo, Tom shakes a few more hands, thanks the fans for their support, and heads off with his entourage. The crowd slowly disperses, buzzing with excitement, and I'm left standing there, still reeling. Hawaiian shirt guy slaps me on the back and says, "Man, you're gonna have one hell of a story to tell." Yeah, no kidding. But just when I think the saga is over, I hear someone call my name. I turn around and see one of the airline staff walking toward me. She hands me a small envelope and says, "Mr. Cruise asked me to give this to you." My brain short circuits. "Wait, what?" She smiles and walks off before I can ask anything else. I open the envelope, and inside is a handwritten note. It says, "Next time, don't judge a book by its cover. Cheers, Tom." And taped to the note, a first-class upgrade voucher for my next flight. I just stood there staring at it, while Hawaiian shirt guy burst out laughing. "Dude," he said, "you got roasted by Tom Cruise and got a free flight out of it. Legendary." And honestly, he wasn't wrong. So, I'm standing there in the terminal, holding this note from Tom Cruise like it's the Holy Grail, when it hits me. This whole experience is so surreal, It feels like something straight out of a movie. And honestly, I'm thinking this has to be the end of it. Tom Cruise is gone. I've got my upgrade voucher, and I'm ready to slink off to obscurity with my pride in tatters, but my wallet's slightly happier. But life, as it turns out, had one last surprise for me. I head down to baggage claim, still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. Hawaiian shirt guy, because of course he's still around, sees me again and yells across the terminal, "Yo, first-class hero. Tell Tom I said hi next time." Everyone turns to look at me. Great. Just what I need. I give him an awkward wave and practically run to the carousel, praying my luggage shows up quickly so I can get out of there. That's when I see him. No, not Tom Cruise. This time it's a guy in a black suit, sunglasses, and an earpiece. The whole secret agent look. He's standing near the carousel, scanning the crowd. And for some reason, he's looking directly at me. I freeze. Is this real life? Did I break some kind of unspoken rule by insulting Tom Cruise on a plane? Is there a secret Hollywood blacklist, and this guy is here to escort me to some kind of celebrity jail? He walks over, and I'm already rehearsing my apologies in my head. But instead of calling me out, he says, "Mr. Cruise asked me to make sure you got home safely. Do you have transportation arranged?" Wait, what? I blink at him, completely dumbfounded. Yeah, I was just going to grab a rideshare or something. He shakes his head. No need. Mr. Cruise has arranged a car for you. A car. Tom Cruise has arranged a car for me. I try to explain that it's really not necessary, but the guy doesn't budge. He just gestures toward the exit and says, "This way, please." At this point, I'm too stunned to argue. I follow him outside, where, sure enough, there's a sleek black SUV waiting at the curb. The driver gets out, opens the door for me, and says, "Right this way, sir." I get in, and the next thing I know, I'm being whisked away from the airport in the fanciest car I've ever been in. There's bottled water in the cup holder. The seats are so plush, I feel like I'm sitting on a marshmallow, and the driver even asks me if I have a preferred route home. And as I'm sitting there, staring out the window, it finally hits me. Tom Cruise didn't just win. He won gracefully. The man could have ignored me, roasted me, or had me kicked off the flight. Instead, he turned the whole thing into a lesson I'll never forget and managed to make me feel like the world's luckiest idiot in the process. When we pull up to my place, the driver hands me a card. It's simple, with just a phone number and the initials TC on it. "Mr. Cruise said if you ever need anything, you can reach him here," the driver says. I don't even know what to say. I mumble something resembling a thank you and stumble out of the car, still clutching the note from the flight and the upgrade voucher like they're evidence from a dream. And that's it. That's the story of how I insulted Tom Cruise on a plane, spent 6 hours being quietly humiliated, and somehow walked away with a free first-class flight, a personal chauffeur, and Tom Cruise's phone number. Oh. And one last thing, I still haven't worked up the courage to call that number. But every once in a while, when I'm having a bad day, I pull out that note, read "Cheers, Tom," and remember that even the biggest stars can have a sense of humor and a whole lot of class.